They say when you make a change, it's neither good or bad. It's what you do with it. What's USC going to do?
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Hulkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you're watching this show on YouTube or wherever you're going to download your podcast, this show is free. I appreciate your support. You can show your appreciation. If you're watching on YouTube, become a subscriber. It's quick, it's easy, it's free. Just click that red subscribe button. When you see the thumbs up, hit that. Hit it a lot. It means a lot to the show. And also, I don't want you to miss one episode of Locked on USC, so make sure you're clicking that bell notification button and you are covered. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself. When you purchase a Jace case providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections, get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's Jace, J-A-S like Sam, E like Edward, medical.com. I'm not sure if Coach Lincoln Riley tipped his hand following Tuesday's practice. However, he was asked about what steps he's taking this week to address some of the offensive issues that his team has experienced these last few games. Coach Riley had a nice answer, detailed. It's a mixed bag. There's not like one central issue where it's like we're not just doing one thing well. There's not like one player where it's like, man, that the other 4 guys are playing unbelievable. And just this one guy, we've got to make a change, obviously alluding to the offensive line. You know, we've kind of been sharing the mistakes. And it's listen, these things manifest itself in a lot of different ways when you're trying to play good offensive football. Then it's you know, it maybe turns into an interception. Or it turns into the other night it was sacks. Then there's the times where, you know, you could have, maybe you had a busted couple of routes, a couple of protections. All of a sudden, you know, 2 or 3 guys make some mistakes against a good defense, and that's what shows up. And so we have some work to do. We have some other pieces that we feel like we can be a part of, that we feel that can be a part of it, obviously. I think this is where playing some of those guys early, like we did in the season, and getting some different lineups, experience, gives you some potential options if you feel like you want to make a personnel change. And we're going to evaluate that this week and see if that's the right thing to do. Trying to quote Lincoln Riley verbatim, the way he speaks, it's a challenge. I apologize if it sounds like broken English. I'm not very particular and not very fond of saying and a lot, especially if it's not coming from me. With that said, I hope you understood what he was trying to say. I think what he was suggesting was that some personnel changes are coming this week. I already made that suggestion when I offered up a new offensive line on the earlier this week on Locked On USC. You can go check out the first 2 episodes. Here's the thing. I don't anticipate any wholesale changes in the lineup, especially along the offensive line. However, I do think you could probably see one new starter for this game. And with that said, will there be one or more of the freshmen getting some more playing time like they did earlier in the season? Obviously referring to Elijah Page and Alani and Noah. So we're going to find out. At least Coach Riley can say that they did their evaluation this week, and you know, if there aren't any changes, he can say, well, you know what, we just decided that it was better to go with the status quo. We'll find out on Saturday when Utah shows up. What he did say was the bigger thing was getting back to playing better 11-man football. That was the crux of the issue. There's a lot of good showing up on the tape, but it's not showing up consistently because there has not been a lot of 11-man ball. In other words, everybody on the same page, pulling in the same direction, doing what they're asked to do. So is it just me, or is there still just a tad too much finger pointing at the lack of execution on the field? At least that's the way it comes across. Look, I get the fact that players need to execute and that there's going to be breakdowns. It happens, right? It happens at the NFL level too. So the inconsistency, it's part of the game. But as far as USC is concerned, it's happening more and more. And it's happening game after game after game after game. Coach Riley also said, outside these walls, you feel like, oh man, we're so far away. The reality is, no, we're not. What he's saying is, everybody else is talking like USC's got a lot of problems. They're never gonna solve their issues. Well, Lincoln Riley says the reality is they're not that far away. I want you to remember that, because we're going to talk about some other comments from Lincoln Riley in the next couple segments. So here's what I would say is right now, you are who you are, Coach, until you win. Coach Riley, he was also asked about, building his program, his program's identity. And it was being compared to Utah. And, Coach Kyle Whittingham, who's had he's been there almost 20 years, whatever the number is. He is the dean of Pac-12 coaches. Coach Riley had this comment. Yeah, we're definitely building. Again, look at November 2 years ago. And look how it feels now. I mean, 2 years ago, everybody was dying for a win. Any kind of win. And now everybody's not happy or pissed when we win by 30. So it means we're doing some pretty good things. That's how I want it to be. When you're at a high-level championship program with those types of standards, that's how it should feel. So I think we've made great progress. We've made remarkable progress in a short amount of time. Now, am I satisfied with it? Is it where we want to be Is it where we want to be as we look long-term at this thing? Of course not. I want it to be the best program in the country. I believe we can be, and I believe we will, but I am not naive enough to think that there isn't a climb. There's a part of that where you have to struggle. You have to go through some of this. You have to get calloused a little bit. That's just the nature of it. So you see up here in today's rundown, there's some work and pain that comes along the way with learning how to win. That last part that he talked about, getting some calluses, having to endure some pain and some toughness along the way. That's all so true. Learning how to win, it's a process, especially when you're trying to lift this program up from where it was before he took over. Now, before those calluses form, blisters have to pop. And that happens once that blister pops, then that new thicker skin appears. You get that toughness. Like I said, most of us understand how far USC had fallen from their championship years prior to Lincoln Riley's arrival. And the expectations are high. I think the issue is no one has patience anymore. With the advent of social media, Twitter, X, Instagram, everything that's out there, there's no patience. You get your information like that, rapid, instant. Well, people's expectations are coming at them like that as well. And with the way the game is changing, before it used to be a coaching staff, you gave them 3 years. Now even that timetable is being fast-tracked. You don't get 3 years to show that you're developing your program. You got to show it in year 2. And Lincoln Riley rushed that timeline when he went from 4 wins the previous year that USC had to 11 wins last year. That's why the figure quotes, the expectation level is so high. So I think USC fans will be fine as long as the only pain that they had to endure this season was that loss to Notre Dame. Because then everything will be fine while the Trojans continue to change what once was to what once was to what Coach Riley wants. That's the change USC is going through right now. I apologize for having a thick tongue. I think I need a drink of water. We're going to do that. Medical emergencies are going to happen. That's why the Jace case is something everyone should consider, because everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case. The Jace case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you're not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery, as well as ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's Jace, J-A-S like Sam, E, medical.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Snap into the action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets when you win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app, it's really easy to use, and there's like a complete wide range of ways you can bet, including the point spreads, the player prop bets, if you're into that. You like those over-unders? Jump on it. And they got other ways as well. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. The college football season is here, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage. Each Friday, Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. till 12 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Live will cover the college football playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You're not going to want to miss it. I don't want to sound like I'm picking on head coach Lincoln Riley too much, because that's not what I'm doing. It's not the intent. That's not my point. But sometimes people say things that make you go, what do you say? Really? Someone should maybe write a song with that lyric. Things that make you go, The other night on the Trojans live radio show, they do it every Monday night, Coach Riley explained his special teams philosophy. I talked about it briefly on yesterday's episode. I want to reemphasize it, and it's going to segue in to Lincoln Riley saying how he likes to play against great defenses. Yeah, I've seen it done both ways. I've been a part of staffs where it goes both ways. And what people have to understand is you go to practice, you have your offensive and defensive periods, which are typically going on at the same time. Offensive guys are doing offense, defensive guys are doing defense. Special teams is typically, depending on how you break up practice, but somewhere between 1 and 3 periods a day. And there's that one time where everybody's working on special teams. And the thing that I've never liked about a special teams coordinator was, all right, what's he doing the other 75% of practice? My thought process was, we've all got these coaches, because every coach, when you come up as a GA, you come up as a student assistant, whatever it is, a quality control, you have special teams responsibilities. And then every single coach, whether you have a special teams coordinator or not, is coaching the tackles on the punt team or the jammers on the punt return team. It was easier to do even here than at Oklahoma, because I got to hire the staff from day one, and I knew I was going to do it that way. So when I went to evaluate assistant coaches that I was going to bring here to USC, a huge part of the evaluation was, I want guys that have coordinated special teams. even guys that have run an entire special teams unit at other schools. And we have multiple of those guys on our staff. And so the amount of special teams experience that we have on the staff is more than any that I've ever coached anywhere. And I'm very comfortable with how we're doing it. End quote. My everyday viewers and listeners heard me say on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC that everything Coach Riley said in that comment, and I wanted to make sure you heard it verbatim, word for word, makes complete sense. However, I would not have used that brag, especially that part of the end where he wanted to do it this way. Every coach has extensive special teams experience. That's not a great brag shortly after you give up your special teams gives up a 99-yard punt return. Again, it's bad timing. But I think he maybe might be a little bit more aware of what he's saying when he's saying it. Tuesday, when he spoke with the media following practice, he spoke about the upcoming game against Utah. And when he said this, I have a lot of respect for them. I enjoy playing against really good defenses, really good coordinators, really good players. They've got all three. Okay. I love the confidence. Do you think his, using finger quotes again, I enjoy playing against good defenses? Does that sound funny or at least interesting considering the perception of his own defense? This is what Lincoln Riley's offense will be facing on Saturday. Currently, right now, the Utes are sitting 5th in the country on defense. They only give up 12.2 points per game. 12 points a game is all they're giving up through 6 games. They're 5-1. Their opponents are running for an average of 2.5 yards per carry. Utah's only giving up 66 yards per game. In total yards given up, they've given up 401 yards on the ground through 6 games. That's an impressive number. Their pass defense, it's given up 1,266 yards. That puts them 32nd in Division I, and they're only giving up 211 yards per game through the air. And only 53% of the passes going against their secondary or their defense is being completed. That's pretty good. Overall, they're giving up 278 yards per contest, and that's good for number 9 in the country. They've given up 9 touchdowns all year, 5 through the air, 4 rushing. Last year, Caleb Williams threw all over Utah. He was 25 for 42, 381 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions. I'm repeating that because he had 3 last week against Notre Dame. And also a reminder, he ran for another 57 yards. USC as a team, they ran for 175 yards. Remember, this game was being played in Salt Lake City. You know what else was successful for USC's offense last year against Utah's defense? Their third down conversions. They were 5 for 9. What USC could not do was stop Utah's offense. USC lost Jordan Addison halfway through the game. They lost Eric Gentry during the game. And basically it ended up that game, it was last team with the ball was going to win. And that's what happened. Coach Kyle Whittingham thinks this year he has his best defense that he's had since he's been there. I'm asking myself, well, it's pretty much essentially the same defense as last year. He didn't have that big of a roster turnover. And USC offense will not be facing the Utes star safety Cole Bishop, who's going to be on the sideline for the first half of the game, unless that appeal is granted. He was kicked out against Cal in the second half for targeting. So how is Lincoln Riley going to game plan against this Utah defense? Last week, I brought it up. Caleb had a pretty poor showing in South Bend. So you kind of have to assume that Coach Riley is going to want to get Superman going, right? Or is he going to try and force the run game that has to work as well? Riley's going to get his chance to game plan against a good defense because he likes that kind of stuff. We're going to see how much different USC's offense looks in this game compared to their previous four. And this isn't Kyle Whittingham's first time coaching against Lincoln Riley. He saw USC twice last year. We're going to see what kind of adjustments everybody makes. And we're going to see who coaches and who outcoaches who. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to its peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. So, besides Notre Dame and that other school across town, call it that school out west, call it the Sow, you'd have a hard time naming a school that has beaten USC 3 times in a row. I kind of gave you a hint in the rundown. Stanford, they've done it during recent history. Right now, Utah owns that distinction. It started back in 2021 when the Utes and everyone else who was on USC's schedule that year took turns kicking the Trojans when they were down. That's what led to Lincoln Riley's arrival. So hope everybody got their kicks. And then there was the game last year in Salt Lake City that I talked about briefly in the previous segment. That and Utah needed a lot of help to get that win, but they got the win. And then last year in the conference championship game, when Caleb Williams went down with his hamstring injury, USC was running and passing all over Utah. Offense against that great Utah defense has not been an issue. We're going to see if Utah can make it 4 in a row. And this time they're going to be doing it without Cam Rising. Here's what Coach Riley had to say. They've had a really good year defensively. You can just tell that system has been in place. And those people for a long time. You can watch people and systems across college football. I would compare it to being in the Big 12 for years and when you played TCU and Gary Patterson and those guys. And Gary had been there for a long time. He knew it so well. Those coaches knew it so well. Every single player in that program had been brought up in it. It was so ingrained. When I watch Utah, that's what I see, end quote. That's what he's going to see from the Utah defense. On offense, Utah is struggling at the quarterback spot. Their quarterbacks are Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson. That's who's played so far this season. And every now and then they throw out Jackson, who runs that Wildcat. Barnes was he started Utah's first 2 games. And then Johnson came in and started the next 3 games. And then Johnson got the call again last weekend against Cal. Like I said, they're not good at quarterback right now. So those 2 quarterbacks combined through 6 games have thrown for a total of 897 yards and 4 touchdowns. Caleb Williams, you see the difference in quarterback play. here's the thing, though. I'd be on the lookout for Utah to try and get they're going to get creative at quarterback, especially if Cam Rising isn't available to play. I will look for them to kind of scheme and get wide receiver Munir McClain some street credibility. Remember that name, guys, right? Munir joined Utah in 2021. He left. There were some issues. Anyways, Munir is now a Utah Ute. Has been for a few years. With Utah coming to Los Angeles to face his old squad, obviously, it feels like maybe he has a breakout game. This is what I'm going to say. Utah's passing game is hot garbage. It's a hot mess. If Alex Grinch's defense somehow finds a way for Utah's passing game to get jump-started and look good, and McClain is one of the catalysts that makes it happen, I wouldn't want to be Lincoln Riley after the game, and I certainly wouldn't want to be Alex Grinch on Tuesday when he meets with the media, because there will be zero excuses left. I mean, USC's football team will have to have fallen into a giant hole and could not get out. That would be the only excuse. Losing 3 in a row to your rivals, that's one thing. But this is different. This is more like kind of like the Dodgers losing 3 in a row to the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's not supposed to happen. In last week's game, I don't know if the team didn't get their wake-up call. This week, they better make sure they're awake when Utah shows up. Lincoln Riley said again after practice, he had another quote. We know what this one is, right? We both know each other pretty well. They're a team, coaching staff that we have a ton of respect for. We've had 2 good battles against them, and we're looking forward here to a third. I think what Lincoln Riley said is they've circled the calendar. Because literally, this would not be a good time for USC to suffer another blister. They don't have time to wait for their hard work and for their pain to get calloused. This isn't a time to learn. This is a time to win. If losing to Utah twice in one season wasn't painful enough, then this squad needs to see a psychologist. The loss on the road last year kept USC out of the playoffs. Losing in the conference championship game, that's not what kept them out. That was a second chance to get into it. Had they won that game in Utah, they're in win or lose in the conference championship game. A loss at home for this team, it would be devastating. It can't happen. All right, that's another episode of Locked on USC in the books. I apologize. It's been a little rough one here for me. Try and do better on tomorrow's episode of Locked on USC because we come at you 5 times a week. I'll have some more practice report updates. I might even be at practice on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. So until we get together again, everyone, you know what to do.